The UN General Assembly has begun its 77th session, and it's being overseen by a new president, Csaba Korosi, a career diplomat from Hungary and their former foreign minister. I sat down with Mr. Korosi to talk about his ambitious agenda of finding solutions through solidarity, sustainability, and science. I'm Frank Uciardo. You're watching TRT World One-on-One. General Assembly President Csaba Korosi, thank you for joining us here on TRT World.
Thank you for having me.
This is going to be a very busy year in the General Assembly, and I'd like for you to start off by telling us about your theme, being solutions through solidarity and science. Explain what that's about.
It is not only an alliteration of S or alliteration of words. I think we are in a crossroad. There is a multifaceted crisis the world is facing and need solutions. We have so many agreements, so many goals, so many targets. We have done a part of the job, but another part, the implementation, is lacking way behind. So it should be the year aiming at solutions through solidarity. The inequalities are growing in the world, within countries and among countries. Unless we do something, it cannot grow infinitely. It also speaks about helping each other. It also speaks about our common fate. We stand or fall together on the big issues. Sustainability means we need to have transformation. We need to have paradigm change. We need to have changing the direction of where our development goes. It's about our environment. It's about our planet. It's about the stability of our societies, and it's about the security of the world we are living in. And through science, scientific evidence is a basis we can all embark on. It is something neutral. It is something that can inform decision-shaping process. Science will not tell us what to do and how to do. Science can tell us what are the options and what might be the consequences. And it will be up to the member states to consider the scientific evidence. If we all put together, it's a vision for crisis management and transformation.
Mr. President, the General Assembly is meeting this year under the shadow of one of the worst deadly, destructive wars that we've seen since World War II. How will this affect the way you do business?
It is affecting tremendously. When I started preparations for this job, I had something different in mind. But the last February and March changed a lot of things. I think it was a turning point in the thinking of many of us, most of the people and most of the diplomats in the world. On the 2nd of March, member states decided to call it an aggression, decided to call it an armed aggression, and immediately appealed to the country that committed the aggression to stop it. So my message on behalf of the member states would be, please stop this war. This war should be ended. Let's work, let's go for ceasefire in accordance with the UN Charter and in accordance with the international law.
President Biden is supposed to shepherd along a food security summit. How important is that for the General Assembly and the world this year?
Very important. Let's be quite open on the data, on the facts on the ground. There is enough food in the world to feed 8 billion. There are even technologies and even possibilities to feed 8 billion through sustainable technologies and sustainable manner. What we have now, a major problem, is the distribution of the food and access of the food to the markets. Unless we can solve it, a huge number of people will go hungry. Now we have about between 300, 400 million people who are in an immediate need for food help.
Recently, President Putin had made noises that he wants to amend the grain deal, and he says that developing countries are not getting their fair share. Does that seem accurate?
First and foremost, let me support and congratulate all those leaders who worked on and succeeded in putting together the Black Sea grain agreement. It is the United Nations, it is Turkey, it is Ukraine and Russia. I think it was a very, very encouraging sign. Now, the implementation remains to be seen, and particularly this deal has been concluded for 120 days of duration. I hope it will be extended because it will be needed. I also hope that, as originally foreseen, fertilizers and ammonia will be included into the deal of implementation. We'll need it. We need the food immediately for those who are hungry, and we need the fertilizers and ammonia for those who will be facing the food shortage in the next season. So we need both.
There seems to be recently more traction in diplomatic circles here with regards to Security Council reform. And I know that's something that is probably very near and dear to you as far as what the General Assembly can do to influence the operations here.
I've been following these discussions for more than 20 years. I'm following the debates, suggestions, attempts to work on it, and I've not always been encouraged. But the world has changed. The world is changing all the time. Our institutions also must change according to the needs of the world. The world expecting the United Nations to be responsive and able to act on the issues of security and safety. And the Security Council has a major role in it. So I'm expecting member states to have constructive negotiations, to have an impact-oriented negotiations, to make sure that the Security Council composition, as required by the General Assembly, would be more democratic, broader, more representative, and reflecting the realities of the world today. I will nominate co-facilitators who will lead these negotiations, but let us be quite frank and quite open. These negotiations and the outcome of these negotiations are in the hands of the member states. Whatever they agree upon, that will be the result we have to deal with.
The veneer of the General Assembly to a lot of people seems like all talk and no action, but this year we have a lot of bilaterals that are being demanded and requested. Is this really a hopeful sign for you?
It is, indeed. Of course, it is the first in-person meeting after the COVID-19, and by itself it could be understandable. But I think there is another factor as well. The world is not in a good shape. The world is full of crises. Actually, we have the prototype of the Anthropocene era crisis, which is absolutely new. We are in a new age. We may not realize it yet, but we are in a new age. And it is very, very much demanded that leaders see face each other, on bilaterals or on the plenaries. I think it will be an unprecedented number of leaders attending these meetings this year, general debate, and maybe the bilateral meetings as well.
In closing, I was going to ask you about the stability or instability of what Central Europe looks like, but so much of that is tied to the flow of refugees, isn't it?
This flow of refugees has not been seen since the end of the Second World War. Countries neighboring to Ukraine are receiving on a daily basis from 15 to 20, 30,000 people crossing the border. It is a burden on those countries, but of course the major burden is now on Ukraine. 6 to 7 million people are on the road. They have left Ukraine or they are about to leave Ukraine seeking refuge. It is a burden for the neighboring countries. It is a burden for all other countries who are able and willing to take the refugees. And of course, it's a big loss for Ukraine.
Thank you for joining us here on TRT World, and good luck, Mr. President.
Thank you very much for having me.